Hello and welcome. My name's Ariella Indigo and I'm your host for the Multidimensional Human Experience Global Summit. The reason this summit's been created is due to the amount of us who are emerging spiritually, often right from birth, and due to our heightened sensitivities, it's now the case that more and more of us are being given reductive mental health labels and often prescribed pharmaceuticals without taking into account our multidimensional natures and the spiritual awakening process itself. Through my own experience growing up and what I've seen with many others also, this linear third dimensional approach mostly serves to erode our self-esteem, dampen our natural intuitive abilities, and knock our confidence, which in turn gives rise to destructive behavioral habits like addictions, for example, or volatile emotional reactions. And it's because our realities are not being properly supported and the correct guidance not being made available. And sadly, as we know, there's some highly sensitive souls who are choosing to leave the physical plane at the moment, or they're not able to get up and running and so that they can evolve into their higher purpose. Again, it's due to their sensitivities and the lack of solutions available which take into account their multidimensional natures. So this summit looks to address these issues and to raise awareness about multidimensional humans, to give fellow empaths, light workers, sensitives, starseeds, and really anybody who feels drawn to watching this summit some support so that we can confidently align with our highest potential and make a positive impact in the world during this critical stage on Earth and in humanity's overall evolution. So in today's interview, I'm excited to be joined by Paul Wong, who's an international speaker, instructor and healer focused on consciousness work and primarily for deep personal transformations. So Paul's chronic asthma has led him on a journey of learning Chinese healing arts and spending time in various ashrams with spiritual masters in India. And from working through his own personal struggles, he's developed this incredible body of work, which we're going to share a little bit with you about today. And it's called Heart Wisdom Process. So it's really the integration of Paul's life experiences and also ancient healing principles to teach others to process their unconscious suffering through the heart and to turn it into insight and love. So Paul, thank you so much for being here and a very warm welcome to you to the summit. It's a real pleasure and honor to be able to interview you today. And I'd like to start off, Paul, if I may, just by asking you to share a little bit with the viewers about your background, your own awakening journey, and how it was that you yourself aligned with your life purpose and mission.
Thank you for the beautiful intro, and I'm honored to be on your show. It's such a pleasure to be here as well, to be able to support others on the journey, share some of my experiences. I want to say that it started about over 10 years ago, and I just got sick, and then I started to look for ways to heal because Western medicine wasn't working. I started to learn different healing arts, such as EFT, Yuen method, body talk, Qigong, a lot of Eastern arts to heal. And each of them has given me some healing, but I wouldn't say that there has been like a holy grail of healing that just I tried it once and all my issues went away. It was not until probably 2012 when I got my first hug from the hugging Amma. They call her the incarnation of Divine Mother, who is from India, and she goes around the world giving people hugs as blessings. So that experience really got me to open my heart and start to reflect on life, that a lot of the causes of our sufferings are subconscious, because there are experiences from the time, could be going back to pre-birth or other lifetimes or childhood, adolescence, that those experiences, if they don't get processed, they go back to the subconscious, and they're subconsciously kind of running in the background as programs and experiences that that still causes suffering. So somebody, for example, got it could be a big trauma or a small trauma. You know, it could be trauma, could be just criticism or judgment when you're younger, and then as a child you couldn't process that, and then it goes back to your subconscious, and then those experiences leave you feeling like maybe you're not worthy, or you're not good enough, or you're not loved. It could be a variety of life experiences. That's so the way the subconscious works is that even though the experience already happened, but to the subconscious it doesn't see past or present or in future. It plays it like the present, replaying the movie over and over again. And there could be also experiences passed on, and sufferings passed on by your parents or your ancestors, their sufferings, their experiences passed into your subconscious. And then those programs and beliefs could be playing within yourself as well. So if you are a person that's very sensitive, you will be playing all those sufferings in your subconscious. And the heart wisdom process, as a result of spending time with Amma, being in India, is that the high amount of spiritual energies will bring up what's subconscious to be conscious, so that you could process it. And when you process it, you can get the insights and wisdoms, so that you can, have a better quality of life, have more love in your life, not close your heart, just see more unity within everybody instead of judgment or separation. So I would say those are some of the insights I gained during this journey.
And you say that you believe that came about because of the darshan that you received from Amma.
Yeah. So yes, I had a healing practice even 4 or 5 years before I even saw her, and then people have said that, hey, your work is very good, but I don't feel your heart, and I don't feel the warm and fuzzies about you. So yeah, it hurts if you keep hearing that from people, that they don't feel your heart, and they say your heart's closed. So you have to wonder what made your heart close. And I would just, after that experience, I think a few months later, I went to a retreat, and then I would say another key moment would be, there was a lot of people in her ashram. They're called brahmacharis, which means they're renunciates. They renunciate the worldly life to be basically like a nun or a monk, so that they can focus on their spiritual growth, which is, meditation, or could be chanting mantras, could be just doing selfless service, volunteering. So that's how they, that's their path for self-realization. And I said, how come you're not wearing all white? This is a U.S. retreat, because I thought that they're usually all wear all white. And then she's like, no, Amma instructed us not to wear all white, to wear colors and blend in with everybody else. She says, if everybody's all in white, people that are brand new will see this as a cult, and then their hearts will close. So when that message really sank in deep into me, and then I just sat there for the rest of the summer, just like reflecting on everybody that who I thought hurt me, who thought that, hey, things, sometimes relationships doesn't work out from a business or romantic standpoint or whatever it is, and why, when I see them, I want to avoid them, or I don't have positive thoughts about them. And I just sat there and sat there with those feelings in the heart. And then as I was sitting there with the feeling, tears would come out and different things would get released. So that was the starting point of what I called opening my heart. And then I just continued the journey and went to India to her ashram the following year in 2013, I also met this other Amma called Amma Karuna Mai, who I just was at her end of the year retreat just a few days ago. Anytime when I spend time with them, it's just kind of like they go deep into the subconscious, help you process what needs to be processed, and just things that you just totally forgotten. And the spiritual energies being around them just really digs deep to work on you. And usually I just feel like quite wiped out. That's why I didn't do the interview yesterday, because I was pretty wiped out. I feel much better today. So yeah, whenever we have an opportunity to spend time with a great being, a great soul, I recommend everybody do it if they can. Sometimes they come to your cities, and in the US or Europe or wherever you might be, they might come to your neighborhood, and then try to go see them and get the blessings and do your inner work. I think a lot of, especially for sensitive people, it's also a great opportunity for you to do your inner work, because you're also, I feel you're incarnated for the purpose of enlightening. Yeah. So if we are here for our personal enlightenment, then yes, there are people out there that don't do the right things, that are hard on you and them and everybody else in the world. But look at these opportunities as ways to continuously heal what's on the inside, and then bring more light on the inside. And that's how we could achieve our personal enlightenment. So I would say my message would be not just for healing or learning some great healing practices, but to bring the light out. And I think I forget which Amma. It might have been Hugging Amma or Karuna Mai have said that it's like there's a light in us. If you think about the light bulb, if you shine the light bulb, the inner light can shine through. But if you have lots of dust and cloud around the light bulb, then the light can't come through. So I think that's what the enlightenment journey seems to be for me, is to keep getting that light out. And
yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Paul, for sharing that with us. It was, very honest and vulnerable of you to share about your own journey in that way. And I highly appreciate that. And I'm sure the viewers will as well. You know, when somebody, there'll be many sensitives watching this, and they feel our energy, and they know truth when they hear it, and they know somebody when they are opening up and sharing vulnerably. And I so appreciate you doing that just now and talking about your own journey. And it is often, your amazing process, which, by the way, I have been blessed with Paul taking me through the heart wisdom process, which was really a very profound experience, and we're going to talk about that a bit later on in the interview. But often it is the case that your purpose and what you're here to gift the world is born out of your own struggles, right?
That seems to be my experience, yes.
Yeah, I think for a lot of us. Not everybody, mine too. Yeah, mine was through the darkness, but that a lot of what you said there is kind of transforming that dark energy, if you want to use the polarity scales in that way, into the light, transmuting the shadows into the gifts.
Yes, you a lot of the things that, if we have anger issues, like I had a lot of anger issues before, and I had a really good healing practice too. But it's the anger issues that closes our hearts. My mother was an angry person. She was a good person, but she was angry. When she didn't get her way, she would throw her temper around. And if we don't take care of these issues, it will just simply shorten our life. Like it shortened her life. It gave her all kind of health issues, like high blood pressure, diabetes. And modern science or medicine may not draw that connection, but from the from the more ancient times, part of life is to eradicate what they call especially this is from the yogic scriptures, like they call it the internal enemies, which is anger, greed, lust, jealousy, think there's one more, like attachments or desires, and that we have to eradicate these internal enemies. But if we don't eradicate them and it takes over us, then it'll just it'll lower our quality of life and also shorten our lives, as it did with her, because she's a good person, but then these internal enemies gotten the best out of her. And because if we're around our parents and we just absorb these ways of being unconsciously, then we become like them, and we're like, well, it's okay to throw your anger around, but it's not really okay, because it hurts people, it hurts yourself, first of all. So we to actually to kind of go through the phase, you have to work through yourself, do actually quite a bit of work to get to more peace. And a lot of it is like it's like their rules and beliefs of how they think the world should be and shouldn't be. You know, a lot of their rules are good rules. It's like, don't lie to people, don't, you know, cheat people. But if the issue I had was when other people did it to me, I was very angry about that. But what I learned from these experiences, even though people could behave the way they are, our response actually shouldn't be from the place of anger toward them, and still have love and acceptance for even people that don't act ethically, or behave in, you know, in the way they do. And I think Amma Karunamai has said, even if people, if they treat you poorly, behave poorly, it's not right to actually go and do it to them as well, or treat them bad. So we should take the high road, and but that's difficult to do. But you have to, if we work to our internal anger and a lot of the unprocessed conditioning, then we can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've obviously been on quite a journey, and have really immersed yourself in spirituality and a real quest to transmute and transform and step into your highest potential, which of course is what this summit is all about. We're attracting people who are definitely on that path and who want to self-realize in this lifetime. So it's you are obviously somebody who has put a lot of time and effort and love into exploring this journey yourself, and finding out along the way what has worked for you, and studying with various teachers and finding your own process because of that, which is awesome.
Yeah, I have to say that the journey is endless, and then and as you do this work, and the external world that we become really attached to starts to shift very internal. It's if we can start to make that shift and go from the external to the internal, there's so much different depths and degrees of bliss and joy and peace, and it's quite amazing. And I mean, I still have to maintain like a worldly life, because we still have to do some things to keep your life running.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'd love to sit there and do nothing and just immerse myself in meditation all day long, but
that's somebody else's mission. Yeah.
So.
Totally. Cool. Okay. So much there. Thank you, Paul. So could you, Paul, what is your understanding or your experience of being a multidimensional human being? What does that mean to you? What does that entail? And what can you share with our viewers about multidimensional humans?
Well, I want to say that my experiences of like your own journey of personal growth or awakening would be, in the past, I didn't, think of the world. I was just purely focused on meeting my 3D, like living what they call the American dream, hoping that by a certain age I will have this type of spouse or this type of home or this type of job, and by a certain age I'll retire or be a millionaire or whatever. I had this type of aspirations, like many people probably do.
Sure.
I never really connected that I had a lot of like allergies, like I would always go to like a box of tissues like very quickly, like on a regular basis. And I just thought, okay, is this some health issue? Never connected that to be just being highly sensitive. Never until I got sick. And then as I start to go through the journey, especially with AMA, some healing courses, and you can start feeling different centers open up. And if a person's from the yoga background and they're familiar with the different chakras, then you can actually feel those chakras opening up, and it's opening more and more and more every day. Especially after AMA, and like I could say that I went to Tiruvannamalai, India, and it's where Ramana Maharshi became self-realized at the age of 16. And then there's a mountain that Amma calls that's Arunachala. That she said that it's actually older than the Himalayas. So in Tiruvannamalai, India, I went there like I don't know 3 years ago, and I'm like, oh, this place is great. Meditators, peaceful, it's nice. I didn't think too much about it, and then just recently when I went, having spent like 3 years later with the two Amas, it's like my energy centers have really opened up, and it's just kind of like all the things that people talk about, like your crown chakra opening up. And like this time when I meditated, I could constantly feel my crown chakra, the head area fill with light when I'm meditating. And it's just, whenever things needs to open up or clear, there's different energies. You could feel the energies move through you. And sometimes people, just to help people see this more clearly, so it's to make it tangible for people. Sometimes when people are processing through, they might feel like headache or some type of discomfort here and there. It's because the energies are processing through you, so that it's pushing against the physical. And then you'll feel pains and tensions and emotions you can't explain. Mm-hmm. So these are the various ways that I'm trying to make it more tangible for people. That's a very normal part of the journey, as they're going through their own personal process. And it might feel, people talk about the dark night of the soul and all these different experiences. That's all part of their own unique journey. Everybody will be probably different, or a lot different, or slightly different. So I can't say my experience will happen exactly for somebody else. They might feel it in totally different ways, and they might get visions, they might see things. So it's going to be very unique. I would say that would probably how I best describe my experiences unfolding.
Yeah, everybody, we're all different, aren't we? You're absolutely right. And we have different indicators on our journeys, many different ways to awaken, and different gifts that people have that flower because of these experiences. And sometimes they can be very linked to the physical reality, these gifts. And it doesn't always have to be very sort of high frequency, very spiritual gifts, right? They can be very grounded as well, because we are needing, all of the whole. And each one of us has a piece of that whole piece. So it's to really to accept and to embrace whatever it is that arises in us. And in my own experience, and I'm sure, Paul, you can relate to this, and the viewers as well, it's kind of expect the unexpected, right? Because we might think that something is the path and we've got the solution, and then suddenly, you know, life comes in and puts us in another direction. So it's good just to flow, right, with the various energies.
Yeah, I want to kind of share about that. I would say for the people that are maybe on a similar journey, I would say do not become attached to the path, and do not become attached to the techniques. Do not become attached to your identifications with anything. If you could say, identify with being an indigo or starseed or whatever the next new name is for be an empath. Because when I was at AMA, and that's what when you're in the presence of a master, that's what they're doing, is that they're here to help you become enlightened. And then, because I was really attached to my intuitive abilities, and I'm like, I'm intuitive this and that and that. It's like my whole story is around that.
Mm-hmm.
And she pulled that rug under my feet, and I was like, what do I do now? Because here's the deal is, if your experiences created the identity, if suffering created this identity of being intuitive or whatever the story you want to give yourself, and then you think that the way is a way, the world is that certain way, which that's how I thought. I thought my intuitive readings are just on, like, it can't, that's truth. But when that got pulled out under me, I'm like, oh my God, what if my intuition was completely wrong? What do I do with life now? You know? And if your identities are built based from suffering and fear, your intuition might be off, because you have narrowed your perception of the world from a certain narrowed viewpoint. So I would say that would be a huge lesson I learned. And anybody going down this path, I would also recommend you to constantly reflect and check that. Because a lot of the enlightened beings, one of their teachings is that, hey, almost said, hey, if you have a boat and it took you across the river, once you get across the river, you have to be willing to let go of that boat. If that refers to your technique or whatever. And not try to hold to that boat or whatever your story is. Because if you don't, then you're limiting your own potential for expansion.
I think that's a really great point. And I think the key is that, and you mentioned the word, it's the willingness to let go of the identities as they arise, and to let go of the stories so that you can expand and grow beyond them. I think for many of us, myself included, there has been, and I can see many kind of identities that I've assumed and had to let go of to expand and evolve. I think unless you are, and I think it's definitely possible to become an enlightened being like that, but for a lot of people, most people, we are going through various forms, various structures of identities to expand. So it's part of the process, and I absolutely see it as that as well. But then when it comes to the point of it restricting your experience, then it's time to let that go, because that identity's served its it served its place, right?
I'll give you another example of a friend, also a client. She said that when she started going down this path, she was like, all her conversations started to become how she's a spiritual person. Her spiritual
Yeah.
And then she said, I found that my sense of self-worth became about the spiritual identity.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I don't know what to talk about if I didn't have that. So she had to learn to let that go.
Yeah.
And it's like just being present instead of, hey, I have a spiritual story to tell you.
Yeah.
You know? So
Yeah.
that's another part of the journey, it seems like.
Yeah. And spiritual arrogance and spiritual ego is often the last sort of major milestone, isn't it?
I think there's another Amma. I haven't met her before. It's Amma Rajeshwari in Mysore. I'd like to go see her one day and have her darshan. She said that spiritual ego is probably one of the worst. So
Yeah.
I think there's some people. What they do is they have a premature conclusion about life, and then based on some like a very deep spiritual experience. So I would say for people maybe going through a phase like that's also valuable to self-reflect to see if you could go deeper and if you could let that even that deep experience go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Awesome. So yeah, interesting discussion, and many layers and many identities, and a great journey.
Oh, it's a beautiful journey.
Yeah, and each stage has got its own gifts and challenges, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is awesome. So Paul, let's talk a little bit about we've touched on the sensitivities, but I know that there is more for us to talk about, and perhaps you could link into your heart wisdom process here. Could we go a little bit deeper in terms of giving people some strategies, something tangible, a process on how they can push past sensitivities, let go of sensitivities, whatever that wording is, in order so that they can evolve?
Sure. So the heart wisdom process is everything that we just talked about, or has a lot of those components that we talked about, which is about letting go of your stories, letting go of your identities, letting go of your attachments, going deep into the subconscious, so that you can work out what you need to work out. So whether a person is having, a spiritual awakening experience, or they're just, regular people dealing with regular life, meaning they're dealing with their health issues, they're dealing with their relationship issues, they're dealing with their finances, or whatever that causes them not to be happy. So the process will apply for pretty much all contexts. It's the same process. And a lot of it, Ramana Maharshi talks about who am I? And when I discovered the heart wisdom process, it actually came from me from chanting the Gayatri mantra, because Amma Karunamaya had a book called The Secrets of the Gayatri Mantra Revealed. It was a 3-volume book. And for people that are sensitive, actually, if you read those books, you could probably buy it on her online website. You could actually feel downloads to teach you. So as I was chanting the mantras, this process started to get downloaded into me about how to use who am I, because I knew nothing about Ramana's work or Ramana's technique. Then I started applying it. And so the technique is real simple. It's who am I without my story? Who am I if I let go of my story? And that's not per se, it's his exact technique. It's the way I kind of interpret it, how to use who am I.
Mm.
And it's actually not about when you do self-inquiry plus healing, it's actually not about getting a mental answer. It's really about evoking the subconscious. So if you can evoke the subconscious, then what's deep that's buried that we never looked at can come to the surface and can get processed through the heart and get released and turn into wisdom and insight, so that you can have that for your journey. So I'll what I've done is for for beginner level people, or just what I call not just for beginners, but for both people that are new and people that are advanced, this process is equally applicable. So what I would say is, what I have noticed is that from working with people and myself, a lot of subconscious issues are down from the lower chakras up to the heart. So I call it, we just work with either the heart, the gut, or the heart. So those are where all the core layers of the onion. And you could do a lot with it, because I did this process, what I call the foundations, for 2 years, and now we could really go deep and work with different physical aspects, but that's much more advanced. But so I could just walk you through the process like I did before, and then people, just from going through the process, people can learn something from it.
Do you want to do that now?
Yeah, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, amazing. It was a great experience before, and a really interesting process. So I think that would be a perfect way to show the viewers how it works. Absolutely.
Okay, so let's do it. Do you want to pick a topic that you think it could help you and maybe everybody else?
Okay. What it can be, just any what, a challenge, or?
Yeah, you know, it could be a challenge. You know, you can pick something that you think that's on your mind, and perhaps maybe on other people's minds, that they think about or worry about or concern about.
Okay. Well, I think we can always do with more gratitude in our life. Could I pick gratitude as a topic?
Yeah, that's fine. So let's okay. So let's for everybody listening, let's look at the person that or the situation that triggers you, that makes you unhappy. So if you're unhappy at that moment, you're not feeling as much gratitude. Okay. Mm-hmm. So do you have a particular situation that you perhaps might not have as much gratitude right now for, especially when you are in their presence or in that situation? And
well, for me, because I'm going through this huge transformation, and it's completely rearranged my physical reality, my material reality. So I've gone from a highly successful career in corporate with lots of money to being in Glastonbury in my caravan at the moment. Well, I go through this transition, and which has brought in many blessings, but sometimes it feels like, okay, yeah, sometimes I'm wanting my physical reality to transform in the same way that my inner reality has transformed.
Okay, so it seems like that we may not be as happy or grateful for going through some struggles. That would be
I don't mind the struggles. I'm used to the struggles, and I know it's my path. It's definitely the path that I've chosen. It's the length of time that sometimes is exhausting. Okay. It's the marathon.
Okay, I have to deal with this. What our minds say, hey, when can we actually get there?
My mind, exactly. My mind's saying, where's the finish line now? I've been very patient. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so not quite there as we like it to be. Okay, so so what I'm gonna just have you do is just initially just tune into yourself. So for anybody else dealing with something similar, dealing with these challenges, and not knowing what's gonna happen and when you're gonna get there, just kind of feel into what is your initial feeling. Like 0 is, just give a rating. 0 is like you're at peace. 10 is, the most worrisome, the most struggle. What would you rate that to be?
I'm pretty good on most days. I would say I'm about a 4. I'm
Okay.
probably about a 4 or a 5.
Okay. So yeah, for everybody else, if you're watching this, you could just do it for yourself, rate your challenge or your issue, because it's your subconscious kind of giving you a rating from a 0 to 10. So let's take a look at, I'm going to start tuning into you. So what we're doing now is going through the layers of the onion. So the first layer, we're going to start at the heart. So what I call this is one of the 9 layers in the subconscious. And I also will be coming out with a new book soon, which I will detail this as well. So the first layer of the subconscious dealing with is on a deeper level of sadness. So we're going to apply it right away. So whatever that you feel, if it's not sadness for the viewer, for you, the person you're watching this, then just connect it to the feeling. And the word may not describe it for you, but connect it to the feeling. And in silence, go to your heart and say, who am I if I could let go of this? So say that into silence, into your heart. So it's not about getting a mental answer, but just feeling whatever response. Who am I if I could let go of this? So held in the gut area, the next layer connects to just fear of letting it go. So in silence, say into the gut area, who am I if I could let go of fear? So usually in the gut area, it's where worries, anger, fear are held. In the heart, it's relates to sadness, but sadness can also be in the gut. So that's why you have to intuit it. So in silence, you say, who am I if I could let go of the fear? And I'll also say in silence into the gut, who am I if I could fully let go? So what's preventing from letting go? There's more fear about letting go. So even though we did the fear earlier, there's a deeper layer of fear. So who am I if I could let go of this deeper fear, or fully let go of this deeper fear? And then the next issue relates to trust. And your gut, who am I could let go of my experiences and stories related to not trusting. Okay, and now notice what you feel when you think of the experience now from a 0 to 10.
Well, a lot more trusting and grateful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, a lot of times
In absolute trust now, actually.
Okay, good. So does it feel like a 0, or is there
It
still
feels
any?
like a 0 to me. Yes, because what it is, and it's very clever how that works. It's gone from that intellectual kind of ego fear, the nagging sort of, oh, what happens if this isn't, it's just me not quite trusting. But then when you embody it, like you've just helped me to do, actually that just falls away, and it's like, no, in my heart I know that I am safe and that I can trust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would say a lot of people that are sensitive, or they might give themselves labels like clairvoyance, or they have visuals. I would say sometimes it's actually. I had a teacher once that actually said, sometimes it might be better just to have simple awareness rather than tremendous psychic abilities, because the psychic abilities make us actually become more distressed. Okay, so where your brain, if you're very visual, it's sometimes better to bring these visuals and get it to our hearts so that it can get processed. So let's say if you are remembering all your past life memories and visuals and you're not processing them, it's not actually really that great for you. Okay, because it's just cause you more stress. So for people that are dealing with that, you can also do who am I if I could let go of these stories and connect it to the heart so that it could get processed. Because it's just really, that's why these highly empathetic and sensitive people are dealing with sufferings, because they're actually supposed to process the energies connected to their past lives. But if they don't process, then they're not going to want to be in this body.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what happens, the way the universe seems to work is, if we don't process, we will constantly find ourselves in the same circumstances over and over again. People that maybe you don't like narcissistic people, but you'll keep drawing narcissistic people in your life, or whatever it is that your story is. So you keep finding yourself repeating that. But if you process it, then it seems like either those situations will go away, or you just deal with it so peacefully that it just seems like the universe is like, hey, you passed that test. You don't need to go through that over and over again.
Absolutely. Yes. I do love it when you can consciously see your reality shifting as a result of your inner transmutations of ego patterns and karmic patterns. That's always amazing to see.
Those people that pushes your buttons, if you can transcend that, then they just won't be in your. You just
won't attract them
with you anymore. They can't. They can't. It's just, you're not tasty to them anymore.
Yeah.
You have to find somebody else to play that game with. Now,
yeah.
Another big point for people that are sensitive is people are always saying, and I think some teachings are well-meaning, but that's only a part of the journey. It's not the complete journey. So a lot of energy courses saying, oh, you got to put white light and do all these stuff to protect yourself. It's good temporarily to give you some relief. But ultimately, you have to get to what's subconscious, what's hurt, that those hurt feelings, those hurt wounds, you have to be with it to process it so that it's no longer in your subconscious. Otherwise, you again will attract those similar situation, and then you're going to have to keep doing those white light or whatever the steps or rituals is to protect yourself. So if you get rid of the anger and the grief and the sorrows and whatever that's on the inside, then you don't need to have to do all those things to try to protect yourself. So it's actually your system is actually much more efficient.
Yes.
And then especially people are always saying, oh, I need to protect myself from this and that, entities. See, the reason you're drawing those entities to you is because you have a food supply for people, for those beings or whatever you want to call them, to feed off of you. But if you don't have the food supply for them anymore, you're just not tasty to it anymore. They'll find something else, somebody else that has those unresolved issues to feed on. Because if you have a lot of internal anger, like I did, so anger is a good food supply for some type of beings out there.
What do you say? I mean, it's an interesting discussion, this, because I have definitely attracted my more than my fair share of entities in the past, and had to go through a very intense process of clearing and then learning to protect my energy, etc. And hands up, for sure, my lifestyle choices and my inner world was a absolute feeding ground for lower entities for quite a few years when I was younger. However, I have met also many, because I do spirit release work as one of the things that I'm now trained in, and I've met young children, very young children, who are attracting entities as well. So what would you say to that, in terms of, because they're pretty young and it's like, okay.
Usually when people ask me to work on kids, I usually say, let's do some sessions with the parents first. Yes, it's possible that the kids can have energies from other lifetimes, other things like that. But a lot of times if I start working with the parents, if the parent's energy shifts, then
Yeah.
that energy will get passed on to the kids as well.
Yes.
So yeah, in that case, you work with them both. You look at the whole kind of the dynamics of the collective rather than just it's just a child.
Yeah, great point. Paul, thank you so much. We're nearly out of time, unfortunately. We've just got a couple of minutes left. It's been great talking to you. So much is coming through, and it's which is fantastic. All interviews are different, and we're getting different answers, and there's different things coming to the surface. So it's amazing for the summit. Thank you very much. What I'd like to do, I still want to talk about your free gift, but just very quickly, in maybe sort of a minute, if it's possible, what, Paul, have you found are the best ways, tools, techniques, path available for people to connect with their higher purpose, their mission?
I would say the techniques, if you could find whether you're drawn to the way I share my techniques or teachings, or the heart wisdom process is, think of it as a letting go process. Instead of accumulating more beliefs, it's like when we have beliefs, we are constantly putting things into our ego, our mind. The approaches I share, or I would say other approaches that maybe has a similarity, would be it's a letting go process, constantly letting go, layers of the ego. You're shedding your identity, shedding your beliefs. It's a losing process. You're letting go, and you're losing stuff.
Yeah.
You're losing the chunk that you're carrying.
Yeah.
And I do it with the who am I without this? Who am I if I let go? Who am I if I can trust? That's like what I found to be very effective for myself and a number of my clients. So I would just encourage people to look at that path instead of looking at adding more stuff to the mind of the ego.
Very important. Letting go, yes, and letting go energetically as well. These things
Yeah,
can
that's a
always.
very key point. There's a lot of people that says they mentally have let go, but if you don't get it, if your body fully hasn't let go, that's not done yet.
Yes.
So you can't mentally convince yourself you're letting go. But the moment you see that person that hurts you, you feel like you want to avoid, or different discomforts or stress come up. You could get a headache, whatever it is. But then you haven't processed it. Because I worked with those type of clients. I said, hey, I forgiven that person. But then when I worked with them on those issues, tears would come out.
Yeah.
Different things got processed. So
yes.
I would encourage anybody to look deeper as well.
Yes, absolutely. Looking deeper and the different layers, and then letting go. I think those are great teaching.
The mind may say let go, but the body also has to let go as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really important. No, thank you, Paul. That was great. So I'm just going to invite you now, because we're going to transition into your free gift, which is fantastic, because we've given it a great platform for people to understand it when you now talk about it, because yes. I believe it's very much linked to the process that we've just given people a quick taster of. Is that correct?
Yes, I will produce share a gift that would be pertinent to the sensitives, anybody that's intuitive or on this journey, to help them deal with some of their challenges. So the gift will share parts of what we went through, and could get people started and start applying the who am I process, the heart wisdom process.
The heart wisdom process. Amazing. That's fantastic. Well, this is my second. The first time that Paul and I did it, we did it for a bit longer and we went deeper, because there's more and more, right, Paul? You can really.
Yeah. So I'll just share. Usually what happens is that we call it the layers of the onion. So very surface layers could be just your regular everyday judgments, that you're automatic what comes out of your mouth. And then you're like, something about this or that. like this is good or this is bad, like very like superficial, shallow stuff that we say. Then as we get deeper, you might have deeper adult beliefs like I'm not good enough, I'm not deserving, nothing I do is right. But then as you go deeper, that's connected to childhood experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Childhood experiences of not feeling safe, not feeling loved. And then if you go even deeper, it could be connected to your existence, to the universe. You know, and then they could go to other lifetimes, so on. So, so yeah, it's just like last time when we did it, it did go a little bit longer, is because we were able to connect a number of things to the inner child that was suffering. That goes. Sometimes you can't work with the inner child directly because it's so deeply buried, and there has to be enough safety and trust, and it has to be able. Your ego has to be willing to let that subconscious come out, for it to be processed. So that's why it's, you know, when I work with people, sometimes we ask people to work with us for over, you know, a number of months, and you know, yes, you could get the technique in like 5-10 minutes, but to really go deep and really process and get those deeper insights, because if you are experiencing reoccurring patterns happening over and over again, you haven't gotten the insights. So it will take some time, excuse me, to work through the layers. I'm still going through some processing from seeing Amma. So, so yeah, it's going to take some time, and I'm happy to support anyone that's looking for that type of support.
Fantastic. Paul, thank you so much. This has been a truly enlightening interview. Thank you for everything that you have shared. And I really encourage everybody who's watching this interview to grab Paul's free gift, which you can do by the link on the email that I've sent you, the one that you've clicked on to watch this interview. So I really encourage you to access that free gift. It is completely free. It's something new to try. And we've had a little taste of it here today, but Paul's right. This is a very deep process, and it's about just trusting your heart and your body that the answers are already there for you to access. And this process will help you to bring those answers and what is now ready to come up into consciousness to come up. So this has been a great interview, Paul. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been amazing to do this with you.
Thank you also, Ariella. It's been wonderful spending some time sharing and spending some time with you.
It's been great. Yes, thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who's watched this interview. Please do reach out and let us know what you thought to the interview, what your favorite part was, or your takeaway. And again, I just encourage you all to grab Paul's free gift. This is an incredible opportunity in this summit to access these free gifts and to really try something new out. And please let us know how that works for you. And thank you again for watching. And I will see you again very soon for another amazing interview. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.